Papa Charles, you younger than Nana. How did that happen?
Yeah. Well, that's what you're only talking about a year. So that's not very young. No, so don't say that because she thinks she's older than me and she bossed me around.
Come on with it. Come on with it.
Just because she's a year older, she thinks she can boss me. We are the Johnsons.
Love through the ages. Roll 1A, scene 1, shot 1, take 2.
I am Charles Johnson, 77 years old. Grew up on the east side of town in Waco, Texas. And we rekindled our marriage after 30 years. And we are happy. I went in the Army in November of '68. Doing more or less recruiting for the National Guards or whatever. And then I spent 2 years in the actual Army. Went to Vietnam for a year. And then came back home and stationed at Fort Hood for 7 or 8 months. Out there was the little man in the black pajamas. There's some bad memories there, and I had some good times. I had some bad ones, but more bad ones than good ones. And I guess the only good one I had that I came back home. But the rest of the time was a rough time when you had to sleep out in the rain, eat in the rain, and doing all this and fighting in the rain too, and trying to keep the little man out of your pocket. You know what I mean? No, I didn't know her before the Army. I met her afterwards, after the fact. And I guess I was out maybe a year or two before she and I met. And then, because I went to work for chain stores here in Waco as Gibson's chain stores. And we met then because she came to work for the same company. It was just like a Walmart store. More or less, it's just like Walmart, really. It sells the same thing that Walmart does.
My name is Joanne Johnson. I am 78 years old. I remarried my husband twice. How I met Mr. Johnson, I met him at a department store, Gibson's department store. And he worked in one department, I worked in another, and we just started talking to each other, just being friendly, and we got to know each other better. It was around like the early 70s.
Like I said, it was just on a friendly basis, just to get to know one another, to know her likes and her dislikes, and she had to kind of learn mine because mine can be difficult.
Mr. Johnson had this smile, and he was very friendly. He was a gentleman. And we were just kind of like talking about our job, and we just kind of started having lunch together, and we developed a relationship. My
first impression of her was that it was more or less someone that I thought would be a good mate for me. You know, our chemistry kind of bumps and it was good chemistry. We just had a lot in common. We liked a lot of the same things, and we would go places and do things together. And just on a friendly basis, first of all. It was kind of on just friendly basis. And it grew into a stronger relationship from there.
You know that you're in love when you blush and you laugh and you smile when the person's name is called that you're in love with. Just like I'm doing now. The most memorable date that we went on, Corner Cafe, and it had real good food. And we'd spend our lunch time there, and then we'd go back to work.
Our first memory date was connecting every day at work and maybe going to lunch together. And every chance we got, we would maybe go to walk in the park, to a movie, a couple of times to a movie, stuff like that.
I used to like going to the park, and that was a memorable date. When I knew that the relationship was getting serious with Mr. Johnson, then we started talking more, and we started talking about things that couples start talking about, this wanting to date more and go a little further with the relationship. We had some other things that we had to get out of the way, which were personal to both of us, and so we talked about it, and then we got those things corrected, and then we proceeded with my relationship got a little more in depth, and we got married.
The first time we were married back in October 3rd of 75.
I was pregnant with Charles Jr. In 1978. My first child was Robert, and it was in the 60s. I'm not too clear on the dates right now.
The day that we found out they was getting a divorce, I mean, really, if I had to put a word to it, it was like shocking, because everything seemed to be, you know, going good. Everything was okay. Even to this day, I never asked either one of them, you know, what the issue was, because, you know, that's personal. You know, it's relationship stuff. But we still stayed together, even though they wasn't in the same house together. I still would talk to or see Papa Charles, and of course, I talk to and see my mother, you know, so it's like they stopped being married, but the entire rest of the family is like they were still family. On his side, she was still family, and on her side, he was still family.
The marriage was great. As we went along, some things got a little rocky, and we couldn't come together with it just wasn't working for both of us, because we weren't doing what we needed to do when we first took the vows and stuff, and so it got out of hand and we divorced. Well, it was some things that happened that I really don't want to go into, because it becomes real painful, probably for both of us, and so that we had some real big issues, but after 30 years we got it together, because we were married for 30. We've been divorced for 30 years, and then we remarried. I faced a lot of challenges. I was working and I was doing well, and then I had to raise and have some of the grandkids come and stay with me, so that kind of put a strain on me, but I continued on, and then I had some things that happened with one of my sons, and then the divorce, we had already gotten the divorce, and I was just having a hard time. But I prayed about it, and the Lord saw me through it, and so here I am today.
Well, the only challenge I had a problem with was the breakup. And I never got over it. It's just something I dealt with. And a number of times tried to talk about getting back together, but it wasn't working at the time. She was saying, no. And it was in her feelings all the time, so most of the time, so it took a while, but eventually it came around.
We were divorced for 30 years, and we remarried.
I found out, and the rest of the family found out, that they was getting back together and potentially going to remarry. I mean, it was exciting. I still remember my mama called me, my mother called me, and she was like, where's Kendra, which is my wife? And she was like, get her, I'm on the phone, tell her I'm on the phone. So I put the phone on speaker, so she told us, what do we think about her and Papa Charles getting married? And we was like, oh, that's great. That's, cause I knew him, cause I lived most of my life with it, So I didn't have any issue with them getting back together, because I know he gonna look out for her, she gonna look out for him. Now, remember, during this 30-year period, a lot has changed. Got a lot of grandkids, great-grandkids that had only seen Nana, just that was their Nana. So they had some adjusting to do, you know, because of course they very protective of their nana. And they like, oh, you know, they just knew her in a single life as far as, you know, they had all her attention. So they had some adjusting to do. The good thing about that is her knowing her grandkids, and she don't have to say this, but we just know it's true. She integrated all of them into the wedding. Me, her grandkids, and great-grandkids was in the wedding. So it was a family event. And at the end of the day, all we want is for Nana to be happy.
We are the Johnsons.
When my mom and dad got remarried after 30 years, I was up for parole. And I knew that at that point that I had to come out here and do what was right because I had prayed for them years and years and years to get back together, and it finally had happened. So I knew that I had to uphold my favor that I had got by them getting back together. I had to uphold my end of it and do right once I got out here. It was a blessing for me.
The marriage was better the second time around because we got a better understanding of each other and we had grown up a lot. And I was kind of like negative. I was negative with everything. I just couldn't see this, because it was so painful going through a second divorce. And but I prayed a lot about it, and I finally made the decision because he had asked me to marry him again. And I fought it, and I asked the Lord to give me the answer, and we got married again.
August the 31st of 2019.
I've had 2 marriages. I counted 3 now because I married Mr. Johnson twice. But I had 2 marriages that are on record.
We stayed in touch because of the kids. And I don't know, eventually things got better for the both of us. And as I said before, we kind of grew up and started thinking on positive instead of negative, I
believe that the relationship has been stronger because we know each other. We know what path we've already crossed. We don't want to go that way again. We talk a lot. We laugh a lot. When we pout or whatever we do, because we don't call them arguments anymore. He gives me my space and I give him his, and things work better that way.
It's 100% stronger than what it was before, that's for sure. It was my way or no way back in the day. But now, I let her have the rings, and if it's wrong, then we fix it. Just let her do what she wants to do. Say, okay, whatever you think is best. That's what we would do. What I would say to the people that's watching now is that the most important thing now is trust and communicate. Communicate. If without trust, then it's always going to be an argument or something. And without communicating, you'll never know what the one is thinking. In order to have a strong relationship, you got to know how to deal with the person that you're dealing with. Communicating with them and trusting, having trust in them. And foremost of all, put God first. And He will make things better for you. He'll tell you, He'll show you which lane to walk in and how to go about doing it.
The most memorable thing that I remember from the wedding was the fact that the grandchildren were in the wedding, and I had lots of friends and family that came, and it was my co-workers, and it was awesome, and we just had a good time. The vows that I consider building a relationship with someone is to honor each other and know that when you're talking to the person that you're involved with, that y'all have a great understanding of each other. A mutual understanding where you both agree on the same thing, because you can't be divided. You have to talk, together, come to some sound conclusion on anything that you talk about.
The things I like the most of Joanne because she reminds me so much of my mom. She was good in the kitchen. She was a good cook, good housekeeper. Hey, she was the type of woman that I wanted to be involved with, and can be trustworthy. She was very trustworthy. And that was my main thing, is to have somebody I can really trust and put trust in.
The main rule in a marriage is know who you're marrying. You know, you got to know who you marry. You shouldn't just marry anybody. And if it's meant for you, if that relationship is meant for you, then you're gonna be in that relationship one way or the other. You're gonna either stay in it until it works for you, or you're gonna divorce and you're gonna remarry again like we did. If there was something that attracted them to you in the beginning, it has to still be there. You just both have to find it. And you just trust God and trust your mate. He has to believe in you and you have to believe in him. And I have to say myself, the second time around, it has been wonderful because we sit down and we talk about everything. I have a tendency sometimes to get overbearing. He gives me my space and he gives me my time to rant, and we come together. It's, you know, we love each other.